It's 3 in the morning in January, somewhere near mile 200 on Alaska's Dalton Highway. The temperature outside is negative 42 degrees Celsius. A driver in his 50s walks a circle around his Kenworth in total darkness, banging each tire with a ball-peen hammer. He's not checking for damage. He's listening to the sound. High-pitched means proper pressure. Dull thud means it's gone soft. The tire pressure gauges are frozen solid. His truck has been idling for 11 days straight. The engine will not be turned off until he's back in Fairbanks, 414 miles south. If he shuts it down out here, the oil will turn to tar, and the coolant will freeze into a solid block. The truck will not restart, and at negative 40 degrees, the sleeper cab behind him, his bedroom, kitchen, and only shelter for the next 18 hours, will drop to freezing in under an hour. This is life on the Dalton Highway in winter. 414 miles of gravel paved with permanent ice, connecting Fairbanks to the oil fields of Prudhoe Bay. Temperatures hit negative 40 to negative 50 degrees Celsius. Wind chill pushes to negative 70. From late November to late January, the northern sections experience polar night, 24 hours of darkness. No gas stations for 200 miles. No cell service. The drivers sleep in their trucks, eat in industrial camps on stilts, and monitor dashboard gauges more closely than the road ahead. This is how they survive. The walk-around happens in darkness. There is no sun at this latitude in January, just a faint gray smudge on the southern horizon for 3 or 4 hours that locals call civil twilight. The driver wears a heavy parka, insulated bibs, and bunny boots, military-issue vapor barrier boots designed for Arctic conditions. His high-visibility vest goes over everything. Exposed skin freezes in under 10 minutes. He checks the winter front first, a padded grill cover snapped over the radiator. It blocks freezing air from overcooling the engine. At negative 40 degrees, the danger is not overheating. It is the opposite. If too much cold air hits the radiator, the engine temperature drops below operating range and the entire cooling system can freeze from the inside. Next, the tire check. He moves from wheel to wheel, swinging the hammer, listening. The tires themselves are not winter rated. They are standard aggressive tread rubber, the same used in summer. At these temperatures, rubber loses flexibility and becomes rigid. Traction comes from weight and tire chains, not the tire compound. He is checking pressure by sound because the gauge stems are encased in ice and the needles inside have stopped moving. He opens the fuel cap and smells it. Diesel at negative 40 has a sharp chemical smell. If it smells faintly sweet or waxy, it means paraffin is starting to crystallize. Diesel contains paraffin wax. At roughly negative 9 degrees Celsius, that wax begins to turn solid. By negative 15, it clogs fuel filters. By negative 20, the fuel will not flow at all. Anti-gel additives lower the crystallization point, but they must be added at every fill-up. There is no margin for error. The final check is the air lines. He crawls under the truck with a flashlight and runs his gloved hand along the rubber brake lines. He is feeling for ice buildup. If moisture gets into the air brake system and freezes, the brakes lock. The truck cannot move. The fix is to pour methyl hydrate, a toxic alcohol, directly into the air lines to melt the ice. But that requires lying under the truck in the cold for 20 minutes. Prevention is faster. The pre-flight takes 15 minutes. His hands are numb by the end of it. He climbs back into the cab, pulls the door shut, and the warmth hits him like a wall. The sleeper berth behind the driver's seat is glowing. The diesel bunk heater has kept it at 20 degrees Celsius all night. The engine is still idling. It has not stopped. It will not stop. The engine runs at high idle, 1,000 to 1,200 RPMs. This is not normal driving idle. High idle mode forces the engine to run faster even when parked. It prevents a condition called wet stacking, unburned fuel building up in the exhaust system. More importantly, it keeps the engine hot enough that the oil stays liquid and the coolant stays pressurized. At negative 40 degrees Celsius, motor oil thickens into a gel. The viscosity increases so much that the oil pump cannot move it through the engine block. If the driver shuts the engine off and tries to restart it an hour later, the starter motor will turn, but the pistons will drag through cold tar. The engine will not turn over. The coolant, which should be a liquid mix of water and antifreeze, will have partially frozen. Ice crystals form inside the radiator and block flow. The engine overheats in minutes, even in sub-zero air. This is why the truck idles for days or weeks at a time. Fuel economy becomes irrelevant. A running engine burns roughly 1 gallon of diesel per hour at high idle. That is 24 gallons per day, just sitting still. But a cold start that fails means the driver is stranded with no heat. And if the heater dies, the cab temperature drops to freezing in less than an hour. The cab itself is insulated. Arctic Spec insulation packages add extra foam to the walls and ceiling. Thick thermal curtains snap over the windshield at night to prevent heat loss through the glass. But insulation only slows heat loss. It does not stop it. The diesel bunk heater is a small forced air unit mounted under the bunk. It runs off the main fuel tank but uses only a fraction of the fuel, approximately 1 gallon per 20 hours. It pumps hot air into the sleeper berth and maintains a stable temperature. He monitors the gauges constantly. Air pressure for the brakes should stay between 90 and 120 psi. Oil pressure 50 to 60 psi at idle. Engine coolant temperature 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. Differential temperature within 10 degrees of ambient. If any of these numbers move, something is failing. And out here, failure is a countdown. The sleeper berth is roughly 8 feet long and 6 feet wide, the size of a small walk-in closet. It contains a twin-sized bunk, a set of cabinets bolted to the wall, a mini fridge strapped down with bungee cords, and a microwave mounted on a shelf. A laptop sits on a fold-down desk. A coffee maker is wedged into a corner. The space is packed. Every inch is used. Under the bunk, storage bins hold tools, spare fuel filters, tire chains, and a 5-gallon bucket with a trash bag liner and a pool noodle cut and placed over the rim. This is the toilet. There are no bathrooms for 200 miles. Drivers use wide-mouth plastic jugs for urine. The bucket is for everything else. The pool noodle acts as a makeshift seat. It is not comfortable. It is functional. The driver heats a can of chili in the microwave. 3 minutes. The microwave runs off an inverter connected to the truck's electrical system. He eats from the can with a plastic spork. He drinks instant coffee. Water comes from a 5-gallon jug strapped to the floor near the bunk. The jug must stay inside the heated cab. Water left outside freezes solid in under 30 minutes. If the driver runs out of water during a storm, he must melt snow. This requires boiling snow on a portable stove with a window cracked for ventilation, and it takes an hour to produce a gallon of water. Snow is not dense. A large volume produces only a small amount of liquid, and the process burns fuel. The 5-gallon jug is refilled at every camp stop. Running out is not an option. The driver sleeps in a sub-zero rated sleeping bag, even though the bunk heater keeps the cab at 20 degrees Celsius. The bag is rated to negative 30 degrees. If the heater fails while he sleeps, if the fuel line freezes or the igniter burns out, the cabin temperature drops 1 degree every 3 to 4 minutes. Within an hour, it is below freezing. The sleeping bag is the last line of defense. The cab feels like home. The laptop plays a movie. The coffee is hot. The heater hums. But the warmth is a temporary condition maintained by continuous fuel combustion. The sleeper berth is not a bedroom. It is a survival capsule that happens to have a bunk. Coldfoot Camp appears at mile 175, the only major service station between Fairbanks and Deadhorse. It is a cluster of modular buildings elevated on steel pilings driven deep into the permafrost. The buildings sit 3 feet above the ground to prevent heat from melting the frozen soil, which would cause them to sink. The entrance is a double-door airlock that traps cold air in a vestibule, preventing negative 40-degree blasts from overwhelming the heating system every time someone enters. The spike room is the communal dining area, open 24 hours. The driver fills his plate with high-calorie food, ribeye steaks, hamburgers, mashed potatoes, chili. Drivers burn thousands of calories fighting the cold. The body works overtime to maintain core temperature. The driver sits at a long table with a dozen other drivers and eats in near silence. Everyone is refueling. Fresh produce is rare. Lettuce and fruit are flown in at prohibitive cost. The menu is heavy on protein and starch. The sleeping quarters are small dorm rooms with twin beds, a heater, and blackout blinds. The walls are thin. Outside, 50 diesel engines idle in the parking lot, a low constant rumble. Earplugs are standard. The camp is a heated box on stilts in the middle of nowhere. The driver stays for 6 hours. He showers, eats 2 more meals, and sleeps in a real bed. Then he walks back to the truck, pulls on his parka, and resumes the trip north. The engine is still idling. It never stopped. At mile 220, approaching Adagun Pass, the engine note changes. A sputter. It is subtle, barely noticeable, but the driver hears it immediately. His eyes snap to the fuel pressure gauge. It is dropping. 60 psi, then 55, then 50. Diesel fuel contains paraffin wax. In warm weather, the wax stays dissolved in the liquid fuel, but as temperature drops, the wax molecules begin to crystallize. At -9 degrees Celsius, the fuel reaches its cloud point, the temperature at which wax crystals first appear. The fuel looks cloudy. At -15 degrees, the crystals clump together and clog the fuel filter. The filter is designed to catch debris, but it also catches wax crystals. As the filter clogs, fuel flow decreases. The engine is starving. Anti-gel additives lower the cloud point by several degrees and help keep wax molecules dispersed. But additives are not perfect. If the fuel was already cold when he filled up, or if the additive ratio was too low, the wax can still crystallize. And once the filter starts clogging, the process accelerates. The engine pulls harder to get fuel through the blockage. The increased suction pulls more wax into the filter. The blockage grows. Fuel pressure drops. He pulls over, sets the parking brake, leaves the engine idling, and grabs his toolbox from the storage bin under the bunk. He pulls on insulated gloves and steps outside. The cold is immediate and total. He crawls under the truck with a flashlight. The fuel filter is mounted on the frame rail just behind the front axle. It is a cylindrical metal canister roughly the size of a thermos. He places a plastic tub under the filter to catch spilled diesel, then uses a strap wrench to loosen the filter. Diesel pours out, thick, sluggish, cloudy with wax. He pulls a new filter from his toolbox, fills it halfway with methyl hydrate, also called methanol or 911 fluid, and threads it onto the mount. Methyl hydrate is a powerful solvent. It dissolves wax and absorbs water. It also burns with an invisible flame and is toxic to inhale. The driver works fast. His gloves are soaked with diesel. The fuel evaporates rapidly in the cold, pulling heat from his hands. He can feel his fingers going numb. He climbs back into the cab, turns the key to restart the fuel pump, and watches the gauge. The pressure climbs. 50 psi, 55, 60. The engine smooths out. The sputter is gone. He exhales. The entire process took 12 minutes. If he had waited longer, the engine would have died. And if the engine dies at -40 degrees, it may not restart. A failed restart means no heat. No heat means hypothermia. He stores the old filter in a plastic bag and pulls back onto the road. The engine is running. The gauges are stable. But he is watching them now more closely than before, because the road ahead is Adagun Pass, and the pass requires chains. Adagun Pass is at mile 244. It is the highest point on the Dalton Highway, 4,739 feet elevation, and the most dangerous. The road climbs steeply through the Brooks Range, and in winter, it is a narrow ribbon of ice carved into the side of a mountain. Avalanches are frequent. Whiteouts close the road for days. Chains are mandatory. The driver stops at the chain-up area, a wide pullout at the base of the pass. He shuts off the high idle and sets the parking brake. The chains are stored in a compartment behind the cab. Each chain weighs between 50 and 100 pounds. He will need 4, 2 for the drive axles, 2 for the trailer axles. He lays the first chain on the ground in front of the drive tire, then pulls the truck forward until the tire is centered on the chain. He climbs out, kneels in the snow, and reaches under the wheel well to grab the 2 ends of the chain. The steel is cold enough to burn skin. He is wearing insulated gloves, but the cold conducts through the fabric. He hooks the ends together and uses a bungee cord to cinch the chain tight around the tire. The process requires lying in the snow, reaching into the gap between the dual tires and pulling steel links through ice and slush. His hands are numb within 5 minutes. The second chain goes on the other side of the drive axle, then the 2 trailer chains. Each one requires the same process. Lay the chain, drive onto it, climb out, kneel in the snow, reach under, hook the ends, cinch it tight. The entire process takes 22 minutes. His hands are shaking by the end of it. He can no longer feel his fingers. He climbs back into the cab and holds his hands over the heater vent. Feeling returns slowly, painfully. Experienced drivers can chain up in 20 minutes. Novices take an hour. An hour in the cold at -40 degrees pushes into hypothermia range. Core temperature begins to drop. Thinking slows. Movement becomes sluggish. The driver's body is burning calories just to stay warm. And if he has not eaten recently, his energy reserves are low. He shifts into low gear and begins the climb. The chains bite into the ice. The truck crawls up the pass at 15 miles per hour. The road curves and switchbacks. On the right, the mountain rises. On the left, a sheer drop. There are no guardrails. The driver keeps his eyes on the road, but his focus is divided. He is watching the tachometer, the oil pressure gauge, the coolant temperature gauge. He is listening to the engine. If the turbo whine changes pitch, it means something is wrong. If the oil pressure drops, it means the oil is getting too cold. If the coolant temperature drops, it means the winter front is not blocking enough air. At the top of Adagun Pass, visibility drops to zero. A whiteout rolls in, a wall of snow and wind that erases the horizon. The road disappears. The sky disappears. The world becomes a uniform white void. There is no depth perception. The driver cannot tell where the road ends and the ditch begins. He cannot see the edges. He cannot see 20 feet ahead. He slows to 10 miles per hour. His eyes flick between the windshield and the dashboard. The windshield shows nothing useful. The dashboard shows everything. Air pressure 110 psi, oil pressure 55 psi, coolant temperature 85 degrees Celsius, differential temperature 35 degrees Celsius. The truck is healthy. The road is invisible. The CB radio crackles. A voice calls out, "Northbound at mile 250, pulling over." Another voice, "Southbound at mile 248, watch your left." The drivers are coordinating. The Dalton is narrow. Two trucks cannot pass in many sections without one pulling partially off the road. In a whiteout, the only way to know where other trucks are is to listen to the CB. Mile markers are called constantly. Drivers announce their position, their direction, and whether they are stopped or moving. The driver's hands grip the wheel. He is not steering by sight. He is steering by feel. The road has a crown, a slight slope from the center to the edges. If the truck drifts right, he feels the nose dip slightly. If he drifts left, the same. He corrects by feel, keeping the truck centered on the invisible crown. He is also watching the snow on the windshield. The angle at which the snow streaks across the glass tells him the wind direction. If the wind shifts suddenly, it means he has rounded a curve. He sees a curve ahead where there is none. He sees the road turning left, and he begins to steer left, but then he catches himself. The gauges have not changed. The road is straight. His eyes are lying. Without visual reference points, the brain fills in details that are not there. Drivers see phantom curves, imaginary obstacles, and roads that seem to tilt when they are flat. The driver does not trust his eyes. He trusts the gauges. He trusts the CB radio. He trusts the feel of the road under the tires. He drives for 2 hours in zero visibility. When the whiteout finally clears, his shoulders are locked and his jaw aches from clenching. He has not stopped watching the dashboard. At mile 414, the driver reaches Dead Horse. It is not a town. It is an industrial complex, a grid of modular buildings, equipment yards, and drilling rigs spread across the frozen tundra at Prudhoe Bay. The architecture is identical to Coldfoot. Prefab modules on steel pilings, double-door airlocks, communal dining. The driver parks in the lot with 200 other trucks. Every engine is idling. The sound is a constant low roar. He walks into the camp, removes his boots, and sits down to eat. Steak, mashed potatoes, gravy. He eats 2 plates, he showers. He sleeps in a real bed for 8 hours. The room is warm. The bed does not vibrate with engine idle, but the storm bag is still in the truck. It sits in the storage bin under the bunk. 3 cans of chili, a jar of peanut butter, a box of crackers, a package of beef jerky, and a gallon jug of water. He packed it before leaving Fairbanks. He has not touched it. He has not needed it. But he will not unpack it. The storm bag is insurance. It is for the trip when the convoy does not come. It is for the whiteout that lasts 3 days instead of 3 hours. It is for the avalanche that closes the road and traps him in the cab for a week. It is for the moment when the heater fails and the camp is 200 miles away, and the only option is to ration food and wait. The bag is a pessimistic ritual. Every driver packs one. Every driver hopes they never open it. The return trip starts the next morning. 414 miles back to Fairbanks. The driver walks to the truck in the dark. He climbs into the sleeper berth, checks the gauges one more time. Air pressure steady, oil pressure holding, coolant temperature in range, and pulls the thermal curtain over the windshield. He heats a can of soup in the microwave. The cab is warm. The heater hums. The engine idles. Outside, the temperature is negative 45 degrees Celsius. He will drive south through the same whiteouts, chain up at the same pass, watch the same gauges drop and recover. The fuel will threaten to gel. The airlines will freeze. The heater will keep running, or it will not. The storm bag will stay packed, or he will open it and the ration what is inside. He does not know which trip will be the one that tests every system he has built to stay alive. He only knows that the trip is coming. And when it does, the only things between him and the cold will be a diesel engine that must not stop, a heater that must not fail, and a sleeping bag rated to negative 30 degrees. Tomorrow he will do it again.